Hey, fellow EngXers.
Hello.
So, what time is it now for you? Have you already had your cup of coffee? Or probably it is already lunch. If you haven't, please brew yourself one because you are going to experience a very cool presentation about engineering practices, about quality across IT organizations. And I would like to present our first speaker for today, which is Grigory. And he's going to tell you what do you need to be successful? What do you need to be precise with the developing your software, and how to deal with some nasty situations that actually are happening. Okay, Grigory, passing the word to you, and you guys, please enjoy your cup of coffee.
Yes, hello. Hi to all. Thanks, Nikita, for the introducing. And yes, I'm going to speak about the quality, how to deal with the quality, how to ensure the quality, and how to enforce quality across their entire organization, and how to set standards, the quality, how to define what's the quality to us, and how to manage this quality, basically. And from the very beginning, let's start from the problems. Look, guys, I know that some of you are senior people, some of you are doing the first steps, some of you are done huge and multiple projects. But most of the times when we are facing the problems are the results of some non-visible problems that are behind. So like here we see that the problems we're facing during our daily routine, there are long-term activities. So there are the visible part of the problems, but actually there is also non-visible part of the problems that are root causes for the real problems. So how to understand how to deal with this problem, how to find those problems, that's our like a goal during this presentation. Well, I may ask you to the audience, Nikita, please help me. What problems do you have in your software development lifecycle? So how you define the problems, how you deal with the problems, you just type in the chat your questions and maybe later on we will answer to them. Well, basically, DORA analysis, who don't know, DORA is like a Google approach, Google methodology, and DORA reveals 3 distinct performance profiles of IT organization. And DORA previously they defined 4 segments like low performance, medium performance, and high performance. Now in 2022, they defined 3 profiles, like they merged high performance and elite performance. And during their research, they defined like 4 key metrics that are reflecting the quality, delivery quality in software development lifecycle, the quality of their processes, the quality of their software development. So this is like a warm-up, how to deal with the quality, how to quickly we can understand what is the quality for us. So, and according to another report from the Gartner, here we see how this quality affects like on your time, on your money, and how you are better doing, how you can do faster your delivery. So you can see that comparing the groups from low to high performance, there's a 7 times lower change failure rate, or more than 200 times frequent code deployments. So this is a pretty, like a very important numbers that shows how we can change the situation if we will go through this pathway and increase our quality, increase the quality of our processes, increase our quality of our delivery. So like we see that if in organization we have different understanding of the quality, we cannot reach the goal. We cannot like say that, yes, we do this. So let's start from the beginning. So what is the quality for you? How you define the quality? How you deal with the quality? Look, guys, we are proposing 4 steps how to ensure quality across IT organization, and here are the organizational steps. Like it's a define, communicate, measure, and act. Later on, I will go one by one, but right now, we can start from the define. Like previously we see in the previous slides, we have to define what is the quality for us. It's like a observe basic quality and business metrics that reflect the current performance. We can start from DORA metrics, we can start from other metrics, we can conduct workshop, we can do anything. But first of all, we have to define what's the quality for us. What is a good and what is a bad for us. If we defined what is the quality, we have to communicate this quality across the organization, because we know that the organization is a big, and we need to have a shared understanding of the quality, and we have to communicate this quality to be sure that everyone adheres to these quality standards. When we have to start to measure this quality, DORA metrics, other metrics, whatever, it doesn't matter. We have to start to measure, and we have to set those transparency tool sets and monitoring tool sets to be sure that we are on track. And the last but not least step is act. When we define what's the quality, when we have shared understanding, shared assumption, and we communicated what is the quality for the entire organization, and we start and set up and establish it all the tool set that is necessary to measure our quality, we have to start to improve the situation, because previous 3 steps will show us gaps and bottlenecks in our processes. So let's start from the define, how we can define those quality. There is several approaches, but first of all, I would like to very quickly to align with you why the quality is matter, because as I said, that most of you are mature, some of you doing your first steps. If we have a different understanding of the quality, we have our own previous experience, we have some experience within the team, they have the different opinions, like a puzzle team are not puzzled, and they are not following the same rules and same practices. So here comes engineering excellence framework. So this is the more than 25 years of the experience, and it contains processes, metrics, best practices, many artifacts, surveys, metrics, and experience, of course, how to ensure those quality. And of course, there is many tool sets that we can use to ensure this quality across the organization. So like in this pyramid, we see that there are so many metrics, and in a red like a marked rectangle, you see only those metrics that we were talking in the very beginning about the DORA metrics, how we can do faster, how we can do better, and how we can impact on our costs and time. But eventually, and basically, there is other metrics as well that is important to ensure our quality. And we can start from the very basics. And of course, we have to think other metrics as well. So this is like a structure and as an example how we can manage the quality. Well, if we define the quality, whether we are doing workshop, we are doing metrics, whether we are starting from the DORA metrics only, we have to communicate those standards within the team. We have to be sure that there is a shared understanding and shared assumption. And how we can do this, like we call this engineering excellence culture, because we have to be sure that everyone in a team have shared assumption, values, beliefs, and because this is very strongly influences on the engineering. If the engineers are not feeling engaged, if they feel unmotivated, if they feel that their decisions are not considered during like discussions and conversations, even if we will have a good processes, that will not work. So engineering excellence goal is to accelerate engineering culture and cultivate environment where engineers and delivery managers feel engaged and they are working together. So that will be the mission. So that's another educational approach, because that's a pretty much important to be sure that that quality will be accepted by everyone. Well, okay, let's say we defined the quality in the very beginning. We observed the basic metrics. We have the framework where we have listed all those metrics. We have the best practices. We have all the questionnaires that shows how we can handle those quality. So how to ensure that everyone knows about this delivery quality standards? What kind of the mechanism and tools that we can provide to teams to ensure that they have the shared understanding and the same common. So we have to common ground with all those people. So there's several approaches, but one of them is a onboarding mechanism. So like how we can puzzle those different peoples to each other. So we propose the bootcamp. That is a onboarding and learning process. And later on, after my speech, my colleagues Anya and Alexei will have a chance to listen to them about these learning processes. But we can set up the onboarding processes within the team, so everyone will go through this process and will learn why the quality is important. They will learn how to tackle this quality. They will not learn how to write, let's say, unit tests. No, it's not about that. It's about what are the quality metrics, what is the quality, and why these quality metrics are important, why quality gates are important. If we want to dive more and learn how to deal with like a automation or automated test or performance test, of course there is another courses and learning paths as well. But this learning process and onboarding process is about different things. It's about how to ensure that they know and they accept that they will follow to this quality metrics. And in that case, we will puzzle like our teams to each other, and they will work like one strong team. So let's say we define the quality and communicated why the quality is important across the organization. And we are pretty much sure that everyone accepts that and follows to those standards. How we can like ensure that everyone adhering to these standards, everyone follows to these standards. So how frequently you ask yourself about the quality? So how you measure the quality? What kind of the question you're asking to measure that quality? Like this is like an example how we can like define and measure the quality. How much time it takes to develop and release a new feature, like an examples. How much time is needed to teams to deliver, or what is the quality of the user stories and features? And on the right side, you can see the metrics that measure your quality. It can be, again, as a workshop, as a meeting, it can be everything. But during this assessment, during this activity, we have to capture this information. And of course, we have to reflect and display this information somewhere. In other words, we have to set up those transparency tools that reflects the current situation with the quality. So these are our monitoring and performance tools. Like within the EPAM, there is a tool which is called perf. So this is how we can ensure that everyone adhere to the quality standards, and like we can display there our metrics. But even you are not in this ecosystem, in not this environment, that's not a problem, because we can extract this data and display this data somewhere else. Like there's another approach is EDA, EngX data analysis tool, and we can extract this data and show somewhere else. We can show that in the Power BI. So what is the important and what is the matter to measure those quality and to have those transparency tools established. So let's move forward and let's talk and switch to the risks. Look, when we are talking about the quality and when we talking about how to define the quality, how to communicate this quality across the organization, how to measure, in other words, how to have a metrics or dashboards or iBird view, overview to our quality, we are skipping some important things, that there are delivery and business risks, because business risks, that's our event that may happen. They may not happen, but they may happen. In that case, that will, of course, affect on our time, on our delivery, on our time to market, on the costs. So EngX framework allows to, like, on early stage, identify those business risks. This is what I called known risks. But of course, there are unknown risks as well. In other words, from the metrics, if we will monitor the metrics, from the metrics, we can understand that there are some business risks for our products, for our software. And of course, we can make some calculations and at the end come up with the risk index, with the impact level, etc., etc. But again, those are known risks. Those are risks that are visible, that are clear, and we are dealing with them every day. But if you remember from the very beginning, I say that there is a visible part of the problem and not visible part of the problem. So you managing your known risks in your daily routine. Have you ever considered or think that there are some unknown risks and you even have no idea about them? So there are some risks and you have no idea about them, how to tackle them, how those risks will affect on time and costs for your product and the software. So in other words, how to find those risks, because the obvious risks is behind your eyes, on your table. You deal with them, you are managing them, you are reducing them. And there is a final step in our approach, how to act and guarantee the transparent improvement process for the team. Because if we define what is the quality for us, we communicate, we start the measure, we have to start, that's the obvious step, to start to improve something and start enablement of this team. And here comes another excellent tool. It's a rapid assessment and continuous improvement program in overall, which is a rapid engineering proficiency assessment of the product of teams with very strong focus on software development lifecycle and processes. That's purely and clearly about the software delivery life cycles. And that's an example what kind of benefits it can provide. And if we will go through this process, we can identify the gaps and bottlenecks within the team. So there's a survey that make it obvious and show us our gaps and bottlenecks in our process. And this is correlated to the metrics, because within this process, we are also collecting those metrics. And within that process, we also identifying those unknown risks. So during this process, we identifying those unknown risks, and those risks are related to those metrics. In other words, we can measure our risks. So of course, we also dealing with the delivery pipeline, in the end, providing the recommendation backlog, which is aimed to improve the situation. That's why we are calling this stage ACT. It's a stage where we have to improve and start our improvement process. So again, rapid assessment is a engineering proficiency assessment through the tool set, surveys, with a very strong focus to SDLC that is aimed to show the gaps, bottlenecks in our processes, that discovers and identifies those unknown risks connected to the metrics, and provide the improvement backlog that is aimed to improve the situation and to reduce the risks. So here is just an example of the outcome of this rapid assessment. Like, rapid assessment can provide a baseline for your team. If you are very quickly would like to understand where you are and where you go and what you have to do to be there, and what kind of the risks, constraints you have within your team to improve the situation, the rapid assessment is the best way to show that and to reflect the current situation. So as I said, this is the like example of the outcomes of the rapid assessment, where you can see the risk distribution, the risk index, the backlog of improvements, which is correlates to constraints. In other words, there are some constraints we have to remove to be able to move forward. Even when we are providing some recommendations, there are some constraints that does not allow us to move forward, and we have to remove those constraints. And we can elucidate, like, find those problems during the rapid assessment. Also, it allows to identify the maturity level of the team. So in other words, we can see how the team is mature in a different practices, because rapid assessment, it's a framework that consists of the agile, DevOps, quality, engineering practices. So it highlights the problems in these areas and shows in the end your maturity level for each area. The beauty of this framework, that things are connected to each other. Connected to each other and structured means that when you have the list of the problems, those lists are connected to your backlog of the improvements. On the other hand, those recommendations are connected to your metrics, and in the end, they are connected to the risks. So in other words, if you would like to reduce some risks or improve your situation, you can see the metrics that are reflecting those risks, the situation with these risks, and the recommendation that are aimed to reduce those risks and improve those metrics. If you would like to start your journey from the metrics, you can see their related risks as well. So that's another example of the outcomes. And again, the nice thing of this approach, that things are connected to each other. Like, from the risks, we can drill down to the recommendations. From recommendations, we can go to the risk index, and we can see how it changes when we like playing with them. Well, if we have like approach, if we defining the quality, we're ensuring and communicating that everyone adhere this quality. If we set up the performance monitoring system or metrics dashboard, whatever, if we starting to measure our quality and we're starting to improve situation with our quality, we also have to ensure our governance process. So like we have to ensure how we are moving forward with this improvement process. And this is just an example how we can guarantee transparent improvement process. In other words, this is reflecting the situation with the improvements, how we are going with these improvements. And that's another example of the governance, how to like make it transparent. And look, when we talking about the rapid assessment, basically this is the only first step and first foot in our way to improve, because it, as I said, it shows the baseline, like where we are, the real situation, and the real improvement starts in a continuous improvement process, because it's a continuous process. It's not like a one-time activity, one-time assessment when we can sit down with the team and see what's happening in the team. We have to start this assessment together and go through those process. Like we have to conduct workshops, we have to refine our backlog, we have to create this roadmap for the team to be sure that team have to allocate appropriate resources to start this improvement process, and we have to conduct this process with each other, and that's what we are calling continuous improvement process. Well, of course, there is a connected like a tools and approaches, but I will stop here because my colleagues Anya and Alexei will talk more about learning cycle, because most of the time we see that when we start to talking about the quality, we have to educate team about this quality and how to deal with this quality and provide this training program to the team. So I make it fast to keep space for the Q&A session. Nikita, if you have a questions, I'm ready to answer to them. You are muted.
Yeah, thank you very much, as usual. So, Grigory, we don't have any questions for now, so please go on. And if people are going to ask something, however, you know, I have a question. So, even from my side, let's think that you have done the rapid assessment, right? Mm-hmm. So you have created some, let's say, backlog of improvements, right? And your customers don't have too much metrics in place, and the ones that they collect, they're not basically very informative. How do you prioritize those improvements in this case? How do you work with the client?
Well, basically, how to prioritize. Yes, look, when we starting to work with the team and when we find those problems, basically those questions in the rapid assessment, they're still very strongly connected to their level. Like they are reflecting which is important for them and which is not, that is important, like for some level of proficiency, and there are some questions that are important for another level of the proficiency. That's obvious that we have to start and prioritize those things to cover basic things. In other words, we have a metrics that are reflecting the huge problems, the time and cost, and we have a problems that impacts that which impact level is higher that other recommendations. So we have to start with the recommendation which impact level has higher rank on their SDLC, on the time, on the quality. Yeah, and Alexander is here is one of our like a most experienced experts who can like add on top of my answer.
All right, fine. So there are, by the way, there are already a couple of questions in our chat. So first of all, could you please, Yuri Pogrebnyak is asking a question, could you suggest a tool set for appropriate visualization of metrics and performance in general? So what tools do you use to visualize the metrics?
Yeah, basically I'm using Perf and Telescope. If you are integrated in EPAM, if you are not in EPAM ecosystem, there are so many tools, like you can use Power BI. And Power BI, the good thing that Power BI that it provides like a layer to connect to these data sources, so you can use Power BI. And there is another tool that we can suggest to you and automate this process with you.
Okay, so you recommend using Power BI, but for me, it looks like it has to be used in very mature teams and projects and stuff like that. What about not so mature projects? So how would you visualize, for example, some metrics for a team of, I don't know, 10 people?
Oh, again, we are talking about if they are not in EPAM ecosystem. If they are not, because if they are in EPAM ecosystem, they can use existing tools. If they are not in EPAM ecosystem, they can use Google Data Studio. That's another tool that visualize your metrics if you will provide your data.
Yeah, and probably let's not also forget about Jira visualizations too, of course.
Well, Jira is if we are talking about existing tools, that's obvious that we can use those existing dashboards. But if you would like to make some calculations, if we do not have those metrics, we have to go somewhere else. But yes, Jira, of course, built-in tools are there always.
Okay, so to summarize the answer to this question, so if you are in need of some basic metrics, please configure your Jira dashboards. If you need something advanced,
yes.
and in this case, you have two options. First one, if you're in EPAM, you can use Perf and all of those dashboards and stuff. And the second one, if you are not in EPAM ecosystem, you can use some Google data metrics, or you can use Power BI and stuff like that.
Yeah, we can use Google Data Studio. You know why Google Data Studio, Power BI, or some other tools? Because Jira covers only the metrics and provide information only the metrics, which are in SDLC. And like when you're creating some tickets in a Jira and go from beginning to the end, it can provide information about those tickets. But if you have some activity outside from this Jira and you are not like managing them in Jira, when you will not be able to see them in Jira.
Yeah, right, makes sense. So the next question is also from Yuri. Yuri, thank you very much for your questions. Is it possible to share or demonstrate some assessment guide?
Of course, you are welcome, Yuri. We can connect after our meeting, and I will demonstrate you, me or my colleagues will demonstrate you guide, reports, examples, everything that is interesting to you.
Yeah, and at the same time, I'm writing an email in the chat, so you can just drop us an email at askengx@epam.com, and all of your questions would be answered, and all of your guides would be provided for you to use.
Yeah, there are guides, artifacts, like a space where we are collecting all this information, and I will be happy to talk with you and present all of these things to you.
Right. The next question there's actually a pack of questions, and I would ask them one by one, is from Michal Kupisinski. First one, is assessment available for any team?
Well, yes, because even the mature team or non-mature team, like assessment provides a baseline to you, so you see where you are. Even if you are mature, team shows you the way or provide you information that you can discuss this information with the management, with your colleagues, and of course provide you details about those unknown risks and constraints. Of course, this assessment is important for every type of the team, because it can reflect your current situation. And of course, there are some unknown issues or unknown risks, even for the mature team.
Right. The next question, those are basically nested questions, I guess.
Yeah.
So, and how would it look like from a customer perspective? So how does it look from customer perspective? How do you, but probably I will try to explain this question. So if the team is eligible for assessment, how do you work with the customer then? And in this case, Michal, can you please write us a comment and be more precise? In what context do you mean? How does it look from customer perspective? But from what I understand is, how do you deal with the customer based on the assessment results?
Well, I can understand and I can read this question from different angles. Like, let's highlight some and view to this question from different angles. Look, in some cases, customers are care about only the time and their backlog, and not care about the quality because they need to receive their solutions as fast as is possible. And most of the time, when you are dealing with the customer and discussing with them the problem of the quality, problem of the automation, problem of the time, and so this tool can like provide this visibility to customer. This tool can help you to deal with the customer and show them and display them how the situation of the quality affects on the overall process. In some cases, customers are they're interested, and in some cases, this need is accelerated from the customer side because they would like to understand why the situation is like this or not this, and they would like to make this assessment to understand where teams are.
Yeah, and from my point of view, I would also like to add that the most interested person in case of this assessment would probably be the customer, because he is the one who actually receives the value of those changes after participating in an assessment or after this assessment is being done for the teams working for him.
Right.
And the next question is customer aware of this process? So basically we have partly answered it, but let's Grigory pay a little bit more attention on how to actually report those results to the customer.
Well, it's a good question. Look, let's to provide you some information about the process of the rapid assessment. First of all, we'll take 8 days in overall, but from customer side, from team sides, it maybe takes 6 hours to answer those questions, and there's some clarification sessions with the team. So team accepts, understand, they see the gaps and bottlenecks, and in the end, accept or do not accept the problems. From the customer perspective, we are providing the report. The report contains the sections for each practices within the assessment, like section for agile, section for the quality, from DevOps, and from all practices. And it contains information about findings, in other words, the problems. It contains the information about the impact level and impact and the risks, in other words, of those, how those problems impact on your SDLC, and customers see what kind of recommendation we are suggesting to implement to reduce those risks, to reduce this impact level, or to improve the situation and or fix those issues. Also, customers see the information about constraints, because most of the times they will, when they want to improve something, there are some constraints that do not allow us to move forward. So customer receives the comprehensive report with every details of the assessment results, about the problems, findings, about the risks and impacts, about the recommendations, and those recommendations, findings, and practices are for each practice, for agile, for quality, for DevOps, for architecture, for engineering, for everything else. So it contains all the details.
Okay, fine. Thank you for the answer. The next one, actually, there are getting more and more questions. Thank you, guys. Please write down anything else that you would like to know about us. Okay, Matteo Bottini. I'm sorry if I mispronounced something, but the question is there any trick to get started with the explanation? For my experience, the bigger company is, the more difficult is to break the inertia and to facilitate the change. So how do you get started? How do you get this tick when things start to change and the company wants to change?
Well, that's very, very good question. We can discuss this.
Thank you, Matteo.
Yeah,
this
thank
is
you.
really good.
Hours and hours. Basically, this is very correlated to EngX culture. And this approach, the rapid assessment SIP, it's a team level focused. There is another programs in engineering excellence as well, like an organizational level, because what Matteo said, there is an organizational level issues. So we have to like fix the mindset and change the mindset on our organizational level to be sure that entire organization would like to move to go to this way. And we, in that case, that's another assessment with the management, with the organization. And so we have to change this, make some organizational changes in the organizational structure, change the management style, change the processes, change something else. But the rapid assessment as a POC, as a pilot, can show those gaps to the management level. So they will accept, you will take the buy-in for those organizational changes as well. So on organizational level, that's another approach that we have to start from the engineering excellence culture, because if this engineering excellence culture is not shared and not accepted within the organization, if organization is the huge. So I assume we will fail in this. But rapid assessment can show your baseline and can be starting point for those changes on organizational level, because it can show as a baseline where you are on your team level.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Grigory. So we have a couple of questions in our Q&A section, though. Thank you, Doganjan, for sorry again if I mispronounced your name correctly, for reminding us that there is also a Q&A section. So the question is, what are your thoughts on virtual products becoming more popular instead of physical products? And I would probably add that in the context of engineering practices that we have already discussed.
Well, I'm not sure I understand. Sorry, come again. Can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. What are your thoughts on virtual products becoming more popular instead of physical products? This is probably a question to you as a product manager.
Oh, well, the whole world moves to the visualization, digitalization. All physical products, like we moved to the digital world. So we cannot stop this. So when we do some physical activity, and now we do not do that physical activity, we have like a virtual applications that is do for ourselves this job. So I found it's like trending, and we cannot somehow to stop this. That physical products goes to the virtual world.
Yep, that's right. That's what we have actually, basically in everything.
Yep, you know, recently I heard, if I will continue to in this way, when we say virtual application, like this, another level of discussion. But recently I just listening Elon Musk's speech when he speaks about the cars. He said that, you know, the cars as a lifts, like it's just a comment about where the world is going on. You say the cars as a lifts because many times ago there was a special peoples who are running those lifts, and now we are go to the lift in an elevator and like click a button and go somewhere. So the same situation, he said, will be with the cars in 10 or 20 years. We'll sit in car, click on something, and we'll go to somewhere. So I think that's an unstoppable process, moving digital from physical to digital.
I hope it will not get so far. I really hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 10 minutes left. 10 minutes, and I would ask 2 more questions, so you have approximately 5 minutes per each question, because the questions are very interesting. Question from Jens Binder. Do you have experience with applying the EngX framework to existing industry standard assessment frameworks? For example, in automotive, there is a SPICE. I guess this SPICE is a framework. So
Yeah,
do you have this experience?
that's another good question. Basically, yes, right. Recently, we were working with one, it's not car industry, but it's a banking industry. We were working with very huge bank somewhere in the Europe. And there was their own approach. And so in other words, they have their framework and we have our own framework. So how to deal with this? So if I understand the questions correctly, if some industry, they have their own frameworks, their approaches, and here we are coming and say, we never saying that, guys, you are doing these things are wrong. You know why? Because if like these huge companies, they have their own frameworks. Basically, we are trying to find a way how our framework can complement or like a plug in to their framework. Why? Because those huge companies like banks, like automotive companies, they are not purely IT organizations, because when they are managing or establishing or developing their frameworks, they are developing their frameworks for the entire organization. They can be IT division, IT departments, and they can be assembling departments. So they are developing approaches that are common for all those like divisions or departments. So our focus is IT. So what we are trying to do, like we take the framework and we take our framework, put them together, and they understand where we are overlapping, where we are can complement to their framework, and how we can enhance their framework. In other words, if they have like a general pool approach for different type of the divisions or the departments within the huge company, entire company, we find like a one key point or find a like a one division or one like a line of the business where our engineering excellence framework, again with strong focus on IT, can complement to the approaches. Like if from our experience, let's say they have a common approach to measure like a proficiency on a division, and there was like a, let's say, 15 questions. In our framework, we have a 116 questions, 60. And they ask why, you know, it's a huge problem to us to ask those 160 questions, because even we cannot like guarantee those 15 questions. So, but our answer is, you know, what this small part of the questions or your common questions for the all departments, that reflects like a situation. And if you like to understand the IT problems, you have to go to this way. So we have like a plugin, we complement to these frameworks. We are not changing those frameworks because we cannot change like an automotive framework in entire organization. We can only to plug in and complement them.
Right. So 6 minutes left, and I have like 2 more questions for you, and let's make them kind of a blitz questions, right? However, they're not so blitz, but anyways. So how do you assess ERP projects, for example? So where we may not have any automation, unit tests, etc. And I would even generalize this question a little bit. So how do you assess projects that are not kind of a standard, right? That are dealing with a little bit different technologies and approaches that do not fall into the EngX framework coverage?
Well, there is no any limitation in EngX framework how to deal with ERP projects or not. Even again, very recently, like all those questions is correlating with the recent activity, and Alexander Gushin is here. He was dealing with this activity. I will not call the company name. Maybe there is some restrictions, but we have such experience. Like we started and like we finished very recently. Provided them reports. It's a huge company with ERP solutions, and of course there are some limitations. But what is important for such companies, if you talking about the constraints, like you are talking about the constraints, because you said ERP companies, they have this limitation, those limitation, other limitation. Basically, those are constraints. And what we did, we provided them ROI analysis. So how those constraints and how those risks impacts on the time and the money. That's how we are dealing. And this is how we are displaying or share the management, how their approach of dealing with the processes affects on the time and the money. And in that case, I hope management, no, I not hope, I know the management accept this, but Alexander Gushin like can flower my answer with his personal experience with these companies.
Unfortunately, we don't have enough time for Alexander to join us in this talk.
But most important thing, there is no any limitation in EngX framework. The power of engineering framework.
This is a very good answer. I think we can put a dot here that EngX framework has no limitations, and those practices that are prescribed in the framework can be generalized. The main thing is the approach, not the actual technology that is being used.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 3 minutes, and the last question. So how to gently hint the client that there is a mess in their system? This is a question from Gevorg. That there is a mess and an assessment is needed. Sometimes customers don't want to hear that they have something wrong. And another question from Yuri, which is basically the same. Mostly the customers are not interested in additional involvement in some processes. How do you share some suggestions on how to sell EngX practices for customers successfully and involve customers in the process? So this is the similar questions, I guess, about the similar topics. So how to give a customer the hint that they actually need it. And you have 2 minutes, blitz question.
Yeah, so we have to ask ourselves what is important for the customer. For the customer is important time to market. For them is important the quality, stability, money. So what we suggest to customers, right now we are developing this approach to talk with them in the language of the time and the money. Because if we will show them their current situation, if we will show with the numbers, with those metrics, they will hear us. The customer will hear us if we will talk to them in the language of the numbers, of the metrics, of the time, and of the money. That will be important to them. And we are developing the set of the documentation that maybe can help you to discuss this or communicate with the clients.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so this is it. Thank you very much for your questions, everyone. We really appreciate you probably having your coffee while watching our speech, and hopefully you enjoyed the coffee and the speech too. So thank you very much again. We would be waiting for you on our next speeches, next presentations. There are one more day ahead, not only tomorrow that you can join all of our presentations, and I would definitely see you on the next speeches. So thank you very much. Have a great day, and join other presentations today and tomorrow.
Thank you.
Goodbye, guys. Have a great day.